She has stumbled many times in sport, and she was ready to retire from her wrestling career many times. But there were always people who convinced her to try once more, to take one more step on the path to her dream. At the World Championships in Budapest in 2018, Lviv athlete Alla Cherkasova fulfilled her sporting dream to become world champion. In addition to her title, she received recognition from the National Olympic Committee, which called Alla the sensation of 2018 at the annual Heroes of the Year in Sports ceremony. This episode of The Cost of Victory is about the rocky path to the stars taken by Alla Cherkasova. Sign of the zodiac: Taurus. Color of eyes: blue. Favorite season: summer. Favorite color: blue. Favorite flower: chamomile. Favorite animal: cat. Favorite movie: Rocky. Hobbies: walking. School subject: mathematics. At the annual Ukrainian Sports Oscar ceremony, Alla Cherkasova was nominated for the title of the Best Athlete of the Year, but she won the Sensation of the Year category. Her result at the World Championships in Bucharest was a surprise for some, but not for Alla and those close to her. I used to get bronze and silver for so many years, but never gold. I think the reason is because it was a sensation to other people. I hoped I could win in that nomination, but I didn't expect to.
Цю номінацію, але це було неочікувано для мене.
Before taking part in the World Championships, Alla had already earned medals from both world and European competitions. None of them were gold. Her first success was at the Wrestling World Cup held in Moscow back in 2010, when Cherkasova came home with the bronze medal. I considered quitting many times, but now I want to thank those who supported me, because it was very difficult, especially those times when I was ready to give it all up. But there were always people who said, "Come on, try just one more time." I listened to their advice, and in the end, I reached my goal. One of those who told her to not stop and keep going in difficult moments was her personal coach and husband Alexei Melnik. He himself was in the national team, so he knows everything about wrestling. In addition, his sister Irina Merleni Melnik became the first Olympic champion in the world when she won the 2004 Athens Olympics. He uses the example of his sister to show his wife that she can also reach the same heights in sport. The title of champion that Cherkasova won in Budapest is further proof of that.
Якщо чесно, то вона заслужила від Бога, якби.
To be honest, she deserves this World Cup gold medal because of all those many years that she's been working towards that, how much she trained, and she always stopped one step away from a medal. She either lost just before the finals and got the bronze medal, or was 1 point behind and was eliminated from the top 3. At the World Cup in 2018, she won the rating tournaments where she defeated the strongest opponents. She was in such a good shape. I even said to her, "You're ready to become world champion."
Ти вже готова стати чемпіонкою світу.
Alla Cherkasova had impressive support from the bleachers at the World Cup. In addition to her husband, her mother and 5-year-old son were also there. He did not miss his mother's triumph. I remember the final best of all, how she grabbed her and started increasing her advantage. The French coach became nervous. He threw in the towel and wanted her to stop, but she didn't stop and continued turning her opponent over, and that's how she won. While Alla's son and husband often follow her to competitions, her mother is a rare member of the audience. She works in Italy. She took a few days off to see her daughter's finest hour at the tournament in Budapest. It was the first time when my mother came to see competitions. She had never attended my competitions before that. My son and husband have, but my mother, you know, she worries a lot. I kept asking myself if that was going to put more pressure on me or, on the contrary, support me. I tried to not let that put pressure on me, but I think it was the increased responsibility, the fact that I couldn't let them down, and that I wanted my mother to see my victory, not my defeat. Alla Cherkasova signed up for wrestling classes at the age of 14. She followed in the footsteps of her older sister. At her first competition, she won first place and a certificate, although there were no competitors in her weight category. It was the Lviv Region Championship, and I remember really well that there was not a single opponent in my weight category under 38 kilograms. So I automatically became champion and was signed up to fight in a higher category of up to 42 kilograms. I won one fight, lost another, and took second place. I brought 2 certificates home, and that was probably the happiest time of my life. For me, it was like the Olympics. Alla Cherkasova had Olympic Games in her career. In 2016, she lost to Turkish wrestler Yasemin Adar in her very first match in Rio, coaches believe she just got unlucky because she was not psychologically prepared for the most important competitions in the career of every athlete.
Самый большой фактор – это психологический.
The psychological factor is the most important one. Many athletes, and I'm not just talking about ours, even 5-time world champions couldn't even make it to the top 3 in the Olympics, because if a person loses just once, the next attempt for them will come in 4 years' time. It puts pressure on them. They can lose again, and that will have an even worse impact on their condition. So there's that. Otherwise, it's just like any other competition. Only those strong in spirit will win.
Только кто будет сильным духом, тот и побеждает.
The title of Olympic champion not only inspires, it pushes athletes to feats, but also restricts them in a way. Not everyone can overcome the psychological barrier when taking part in the Olympics. It's probably all in the mind. We make a cult out of this peak. The Olympics take place once every 4 years. We prepare for them, and then we can't realize ourselves. Everyone wants to win so much that they can't show their true selves. I think that's why, especially since, wrestling is a kind of sport where you have an opponent. You fight against this opponent. You have your results in swimming or athletics, and you know the results of your opponents. Yes, sensational things happen too. But in wrestling, you can win one day and lose another. We schedule a fight by 5 minutes, and the result will be completely different. But it looks like Alla Cherkasova and her coaches drew the right conclusions after the Rio Olympics. In the new Olympic cycle, the Ukrainian wrestler won the World Cup in 2018 and came first in continental competitions in 2019. Her closest goal is the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo. If you have already been world champion, the participants at the Olympics are the very same. There's just fewer of them because there can be up to 30 participants at the World Championships and 16 to 18 at the Olympics. The difference is in the heavy psychological burden at the Olympics. It's a competition that draws the attention of the whole world. Everyone watches these competitions. When you say Olympics to an athlete, they start growing a shell around themselves. All they need to do is mentally prepare for them and to remain free of injuries. I think winning an Olympic medal is very possible, hopefully even a gold one. Alla Cherkasova has many awards in her rich collection, with the exception of an Olympic one. That's why she keeps training hard, day after day, to achieve this goal. With the birth of her son Igor, she got both a small spectator and a second personal coach. Explaining to him why she's tired or can't do something on one or another day is simply impossible. I can come up with an excuse for my coach. I can say I can't do a certain thing, but I can't do that with my son. He says, "What do you mean you can't do it? You must do it." And Alla, having listened to her son, does what is required. She puts even greater effort than before, because now she's fighting not just for herself and her country, but for her entire sporting family. When she sets herself up for a competition, she calls Igor and asks him, "What do you want me to do?" He says he wants her to win a gold medal. That really motivates her, and she wrestles with such enthusiasm. She doesn't just go out onto the wrestling mat and fights. She fights for her family from the bottom of her heart. The favorite pastime of the world champion is going for walks with her son and husband. They have their favorite places at the Olympic base in Koncha-Zaspa, where they spend quite a lot of time. She loves walks in the forest and when it's calm and quiet. If my husband and son are with me, I try to spend all my free time with them, go for a walk together. And if I'm at an international sports gathering, I like reading and embroidering. I like walking in the woods, it's calm and quiet there. We even used to have an expression to go count squirrels before a competition. It meant to go into the woods to think and put everything in your mind in order. Alla has known about putting everything in order since she was a child. After all, for her, the love of order is almost the most important feature in people. Before going out to the wrestling mat, she and her coach carefully analyze her opponents. She always prepares carefully before doing something. Alla is a very specific kind of person. She is very gentle, kind, and responsible in the family. With her, everything must be clear and neatly laid out on the shelves. As for competitions, I can say that she needs a lot of pep talk and to get very angry, so as to come out and fight well in a bout. Alla Cherkasova spent a lot of time training with her future husband at the training camp. They often went to tournaments together. There was an attraction. They became friends and then a family. Like many women, Alla found the way to Alexei's heart through his stomach. Alexei will always recognize the taste of meat cooked by his wife. She cooks very tasty meat. She fries it with all sorts of spices by her own recipe. Her mother works in Italy, and everything spice-related is at the highest level there, like olive oil, all types of seasonings and salads. In short, her signature dishes are salads and meat. She does them really well. Alla's soft character does not always fit her aggressive behavior on the wrestling mat, but those soft and fluffy ones will lose immediately there. So she's tough and persistent on the mat, which is a quality she's developed thanks to wrestling. Sometimes things don't work out at the first attempt, so we keep trying, and if you really believe in something, you will definitely reach your goal. You shouldn't give up ahead of time. Many people just simply stop. They go to one university, realize they don't like it there, go to another one, and so on. Or every job they try is too difficult for them. If you decide that something is important for you, you'll keep working on it and reach your goal. It was wrestling that made me develop perseverance. Even though wrestling turns beautiful women into strong-willed athletes, they still dream of a strong man they can rely on and feel weak with. She does not like to cry, but she does not hide her tears when times are tough. I cry like any other woman when life is hard, but wrestling makes people much stronger. You get used to dealing with problems, and when you're done with wrestling, you get tougher, which helps you to overcome difficulties. I think those who have passed through the school of wrestling are very strong people. Alla never thought that wrestling would become the main focus of her life. She did not set herself the goal of gaining a foothold in the sport at the very beginning when she trained 3 times a week. She didn't think she'd continue wrestling forever even when she joined the national team. I trained professionally, but I always thought that I'd end my career when I reach a certain point, like winning a world championship. I thought my life would not be connected with sports and that I'd be working in a different area. I knew that it was my profession that made me money, but when I met my husband and our son was born, I realized I'd probably keep doing it for the rest of my life. Even when I'll no longer wrestle myself, my life will still be connected with it. But it's way too early to talk about the end of her sporting career. Alla has reached the top of her form, gained experience and became the leader of the national team and an example for the younger generation. She can be a great example for many people, for many, because she suffered a lot of injuries, and there were times when she stopped herself just a step away from an important victory. World Championships, even the Olympics, I think she just had some bad luck. Maybe that bad luck then turned into the gold medal she won at the World Cup. I think she should have had an Olympic medal before the World Cup, any medal, but it was just bad luck.
Должна была обязательно быть с медалью какой-нибудь, но так получилось, что, просто невезение.
In this family, Ihor's aunt Irina Merleni Melnik set an example on how to reach Olympic heights back in 2004 in Athens. 16 years later, Alla Cherkasova can also count on winning a medal at the Olympics in 2020. There is no certainty that this will happen, but we have hope and good prospects. Nobody knows. We have hope, but it's impossible to know for sure. It's like looking at a young athlete who trains well and is in great shape, but you can't say whether he's going to become a champion. He might become champion, but things happen. Injuries happen. He might fall in love and his girl could tell him to stop wrestling. There are many factors that can affect things. Getting from cadet level to adult wrestling is very hard, just like saying which cadet will become a champion. Everyone in the family of Alla Cherkasova, world champion in freestyle wrestling, is working towards the success at Tokyo 2020. They called her the biggest sensation at the Heroes of the Year in Sports ceremony, according to the National Olympic Committee of Ukraine, for winning gold at the World Wrestling Championships in Budapest. She's expected to win a medal in Japan, but that won't be a sensation for anybody.